14 podcast presented by Sports Interaction, your homegrown sportsbook bet local. We are now joined with a special guest, an OG friend of the Gate 14 podcast from Blue Jays Talk Plus. It is Blake Murphy. What is up, Blake? How we doing?
Good, man. George Springer literally homered right as we came on here. What could be better on a split squad day than Votto and Springer homers in different parts of Florida, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's this is my thing with this team is this offense is banging. I know it's spring training right now, but if you look at this roster and this lineup from top to bottom, you got Springer hitting 400 now or 385. Vladdy is on the loose. Bo Bichette's doing what Bo Bichette does. And honestly, Marshall looks incredible too. So I'm looking at this team, and we talked about it. There's going to have to be internal changes to be made for this team to be good. Guys have to bounce back, and they're all showing it, man. I mean, I'm Votto pilled right now, though, so I couldn't be in a better mood than I am right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good time to be Votto pilled. We need the bat boys to do a little bit better of it. The Tim Mazes of the world to do a better job of getting the bats out of the way. I guess Votto, that's how he sprained his ankle today, was stepped on a bat in the dugout. But otherwise we're all good, man. Rest in peace to the Vogelbach story. But yeah, it's Joey Votto time.
I will say this: this is the most Toronto Blue Jays shit I have ever heard. Votto launches a baseball off of not a bum, not a shit bum, off of Zach Wheeler, one of the best postseason pitchers in the last 4 or 5 years. Votto launches an Oppo bomb off him. I guess it was center field kind of, but Oppo, and he gets taken out after one at bat. I'm like, what the fuck happened to Votto? And of course, Hazel May comes out, our queen, and says Votto rolled his ankle on a bat. Which I like. How does that even possible? How was her bats on the floor?
I don't know, man. This is this is Michael Saunders all over again. What was it? A sprinkler he tripped on and like tore his meniscus or something like that. Yeah, let's hope it's not that. Votto sounded, I think he told Keegan that he should only probably need the off day tomorrow, and he figures he'll be fine. But yeah, not great, man.
Just insane. Like, everyone's fired up. I'm reading Twitter. By the way, Votto tweets right now. If you're in the engagement business on Twitter, Votto tweets do absolute numbers. I just did too. Just bang. My entire Twitter timeline, all of the Jays fans, except a couple old like losers who are like, "Oh, it's spring training," are all in a consensus. This rocks. Like, Votto is on the Blue Jays, launching baseballs into orbit in his first at bat, and then he gets hurt, and the entire timeline is just set aflame. But I hope it's just precautionary, because you talked about Vogelbach earlier. I hate to say it, I think he's done. I hate to say it. I don't know how he makes his team unless they want to give Votto more reps, right? Like, that's kind of the only way.
And even if they did want to do that, like, Vogelbach, I think has an identical deal to Votto, where he gets $2 million if he makes the major league roster at any point. So if you were doing Vogelbach as a temp stopgap until Votto's ready, well, then it's a $4 million player. And like, the value's not really that. I don't know. I think they'd maybe rather, like, if the plan is, say, Votto by May 1st, then maybe you just use that extra roster spot instead of Vogelbach, as you protect someone else from who doesn't have options, right? Like that's Ernie spot, or that lets you carry Lucas, even though there's not a path to playing time, just so you have a fourth outfielder or something like that. Maybe that's the way you use that spot instead.
Yeah, it's just, this team is it's what Ross Atkins is doing is he's not saving his ass, but he is doing a lot of these no risk, high reward type of moves. And the Votto one has the highest potential of a reward. He says he's fully healthy now, Votto. I mean, not with the ankle stuff right now, but I'm sure he'll be fine. It's just a rolled ankle. But Votto being good on this team as a DH, and then I guess you'd have to kind of put Turner at third, would be scenes. Like, Joey Votto has always been one of the best hitters in baseball. Just a marvel to watch at the plate. So I really want him to be good. Like, he is probably the guy I'm rooting for maybe the most right now on this team to be good.
Yeah, and you don't even need him to be like amazing, right? Like, the last 2 years, he was slightly below league average as he dealt with the shoulder stuff. Yeah. Weirdly became like a reverse splits guy, which is not a thing that I think actually exists. So like the bar is pretty low here. But like, even if, okay, let's say he's a league average bat, right? He gets to a 100 WRC plus, which in modern baseball is like what? Like a 740 OPS? Like, that's nothing if you're a high OBP guy. So let's say he just does that, and then otherwise is like a good leader. He's, I don't know, an extension of the Matt Haig kind of pitching hitting coach position. And then yeah, like the last 2 years, the Jays have basically entirely punted on the 26th man spot, right? Like they used Nathan Lucas for half a season without ever actually playing him. They had Bradley Zimmer on the roster the whole year before that. Like they have told us multiple times they're cool with that roster spot not playing a lot and just like being an emergency thing or a vibes thing or something like that. I think, if Votto gets what, 200 plate appearances and is a decent bat, I think everyone's really, really happy with that. Play against some righties. If Vlad or Turner need a day down, play the big home games when there's a big crowd out or something like that. This is cake, man. You could get really granular and nerdy about how best to optimize that 26th roster spot, but like you could also just have Joey fucking Votto in that 26th roster spot.
It's like analytics, everything out the window. Let's just fucking bring Canada's boy home. And I will say, he's done tons of things. I've admittedly said he is very cringy on social media. He has been. But when he's on our side now, it's like, I love this guy. But what he did, him going out of his way to call Ross Atkins and say, I want to play on this team. I'm willing to work my way up from the minor leagues. I'll be number 37 in spring training. He wants to play here. And it's cool to have a guy that was a superstar at one point, an MVP at one point, openly want to play for Toronto and play for his hometown team. And I think the storyline is just incredible. A team that needs it last year. I don't think Brandon Belt served the purpose that they thought he was going to serve in terms of like a leader. I thought he was more of like not a knock on him, but more of like a fuck around guy. I think that Votto and Turner provide like that actual leader I have won type of vibe to this clubhouse, which is what this team clearly needed after last year.
Yeah, weirdly, they thought Belt was going to be the chemistry locker room guy, and he ended up being like their second or third most important hitter. Joey Votto better not be their second or third most important hitter this year because things have gone the wrong way then. But yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. And like, look, as like like a baseball history nerd and stuff like that, I would have loved for Joey Votto to ride into the sunset. As a Cincinnati Red, they make the playoffs last year. He gets that moment, whatever. But if you are going to have your baseball reference page or your baseball card or whatever, have a whole career with one team, and then there's 1 year where you're somewhere else, like a lot of times that would bug me. But if it's your hometown team, that's the team you do it for, right? It's, hey, Cincinnati's going in a different direction. There's no point to me there. I'm coming home for, 3/4 of a season or whatever it ends up being after Buffalo. There's like the only downside to this is the kind of thing you think about if you're a broken person, which is like, well, what if they force him too many at bats and he's really bad and has to retire midseason? Like, okay, the IL is there for that. Like he becomes a coach. Again, you don't use the 26th roster spot that much. There's very, very minimal downside here to me. This is and like so I mean, he looked good today. He took Wheeler deep, but like if he spends a month in Buffalo, that's a pretty good reason to go down to Buffalo for a game or two.
For sure.
For like those of us who are just a quick jaunt away or whatever.
Yeah, no, that would be incredible. I am so pumped to see what this opening day roster is. There's so many weird things that are going on, like the Espinals, who have really underperformed since 2022, frankly. Defensively, his running is down, his base running is down. He hasn't looked good at all. I don't know really why he's on this team, to be honest with you. But the Ernie Clement story, the David Schneider story, Nathan Lucas looks absolutely fucking insane this spring. Looks like he's hitting hitting barreling balls, hitting for power, hitting for average. Looks incredible. Who do you see making this team? Like, do you see Espinal, who has options, kind of starting that year in AAA? I mean, Ernie's earned. I'm not saying he's my guy, but he's earned this spot.
Oh, he definitely has. I mean, he's had a significantly better spring. I think at this point, I know the Jays last year maintained that they liked Espinal's defense better than the metrics did, better than I guess my eye test did. But like Ernie, like when I would check out Bison's games and stuff last year, he looked better defensively than Santiago Espinal. Yeah. It certainly looks from spring like all those gains he made as a hitter at AAA last year have carried over. Like the approach is really solid and stuff. And I don't want to get too in the weeds about a 28-year-old kind of career minor league guy, but he's better than Espinal. Like it just, all the evidence we have other than that kind of half a season where Espinal tore the cover off the ball because he'd done nothing but like shoulders and biceps days all off season. Like it has looked like Ernie's been a better player. So I do think probably you're looking at a situation where there's only room for two of Ernie, Davis Schneider, and Santiago Espinal eventually. You could craft an opening day roster that has all three of those guys and Nathan Lucas on it, and it's the Votto goes to the minors, and Vogelbach just doesn't make the team, right? That's how you
Yeah.
create the spot, and then your bench is a little, you've got a lot of right-handed hitting second base slash left field guys, but that's okay. You maintain the kind of long-term flexibility and stuff. Lucas to me is an interesting one because I think it'd be a little risky to head into the season with only three outfielders. And I know IKF can play there, Biggio can play there, Davis Schneider, Ernie could probably play there. Like you've got guys, but as only three traditional outfielders or everyday outfielders, when two of those guys are Kiermaier and Springer, I don't know. They might not want to do that. And I'm a Nathan Lucas guy. I don't think he's like an everyday player type, but good outfielder, good base runner, really good like plate discipline and swing decisions kind of guy. I think there's a spot for him. So I don't know if I were drawing it up right now. If we assume that Votto is going to need a little bit of time in the minor leagues, and I'm working under the assumption now that Vogelbach's not going to make the team, you could fit all of those guys on the roster still. Once Votto's ready, I think Ernie should be ahead of Espinal. And really the only argument you can make against it is, well, Espinal makes more money, but that's kind of chasing bad money with good money to be like, well, we'll expose Ernie Clement to waivers because we're already paying Santiago Espinal, 2.7 when he should be making, the minimum probably.
Well, the thing about Ernie is he goes on waivers. That dude's claimed in like half a second. I mean, Luplo got claimed in an hour by the Phillies. So that's the thing. It's like Ernie goes on waivers. He's not coming back to the Jays. He's not going outright to AAA. That dude is easily going somewhere. And another guy who we seen this spring as well is Mitch White, who pitched today. Not really that great. Had him on the pod last week.
Excellent episode, by the way. I really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, no,
really smart stuff from him.
He is one of the smart. I couldn't believe some of the stuff he was saying. Like he was actually like standing up and like showing us what he's like talking about, and I was like, this is insane. But I don't know. Do you see a chance where he makes a team? Because if he gets sent down, he's on waivers and he's gonna get picked up pretty fast. He's throwing 97 now, so.
Yeah, and he's also already been outrighted once, so you don't even have the benefit of, you could look at some of these guys. I can't remember what Wes Parsons' status is because he left the league and came back. But like, let's say it comes down to Parsons or Mitch White. Yeah. Well, Parsons, if you have the ability to outright him if he clears waivers, that's a benefit, right? You still keep him in your AAA system. I think Mitch White makes the opening day roster. I think that the Alec Manoah injury probably gives you a little bit of extra flexibility there. I'm probably giving that fifth start to Bowden the way that things have looked in spring, not only, surface stats, but all the like nerd stuff, like all the stuff plus that we see coming out of it. All of that is like, yep, Bowden's there. This is real. I was a guy holding Bowden Francis stock last year. So I'd ride that out. I'd give him a shot. I don't think Mitch White has looked. I've been pretty disappointed in spring, honestly, because I heard, the velocity was up. I talked to some people, and I mentioned this on Zoobs' pod, that I talked to some people around the league who, smart front offices were trying to buy low on Mitch White after what they saw late last season in AAA. Obviously, he cleared waivers last year, so teams weren't kicking the door down. But like by the time that season ended, there were smart teams that had some interest in Mitch White. So I do think he'd probably get, if not claimed, then he could opt for free agency since he's already been outrighted. So I think he'll probably make the team. Like the guys you're talking about who you'd want to save that spot for are like, let's say, okay, Wes Parsons. Well, Wes Parsons isn't, he's fine org depth, but he's 31 and he has options. Yariel Rodriguez, we haven't seen stretched out enough yet. Ricky Tiedemann hasn't really, you would have loved for him to run with the fifth starter spot, but because of the delays, that hasn't really been the case. And he's not on the 40-man anyway. And then like, are you worrying about, hey, Zach Pop or Brandon Little or something like that? No, I think you'd rather keep Mitch White, keep the org depth, and let those guys, battle it out in AAA.
Man, Bowden looked, again, I'm not being biased, he's our guy, but he has looked insane this spring, man. I truly can't fathom it. And I'm so tired. My entire mentions on Twitter is people saying, oh my God, we're rushing Bowden Francis. He is 20 fucking 6.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? We're rushing Bowden Francis. How did it even make sense? He's 26. He had success last year in a role that he kind of got thrown into that he wasn't comfortable with. 1.6 ERA last year in 32 innings. I know it's small sample size. has done every single thing, has ticked every single box to be able to prove that he should be a starting pitcher in baseball. Bassett talks to me and Avery about it, talks about how good Bowden Francis is. I don't understand the fan base with this rushing nonsense with Bowden
Dude,
Francis.
he
He
has
is
almost
unreal.
he has almost 250 career innings at AAA, like spread over 3 seasons. How many times does he need to go down there and show? Like, I guess if you were like, I don't know, if you were like really weird about wanting guys, like, you remember the old Verducci rule about increasing guys' innings and stuff like that, but like, he threw what 70 innings last year across a couple levels, and that was like with him needing to bounce around roles. And like, I don't know, it was his third time having a cup of coffee at AAA, let alone the major. I think he's clearly a major league pitcher, and like, I don't know. The only reason he was going up and down last year instead of being a full-time member of the bullpen was because he was the guy that had options. Like, he's a major leaguer. I don't, the case that it's like rushing him, I don't really get, man. He was really good last year in AAA as a starter. He was really good in the majors as a reliever, and he's been really, really good this spring. I don't know if this is rushing him. I don't know what box you're still waiting for him to check.
Yeah, I don't either. And man, this team has a lot of good problems, especially with pitching. Ricky Tiedemann looked insane. He is throwing 97 from the left side. The dude's 21. He is a freak. We met him in person in Florida at the dinner, and he like came up to us, and I was like, "You are the biggest human being I've ever seen." He is massive, and he's really good. Bowden's really good, and then you have that Alec Manoah question mark for that fifth spot. It's like this team is going to be in a really good spot in a year or two, pitching wise, if these guys can kind of perform how they're expected. But speaking about Manoah, where are you at here with Manoah? I have no idea. No one's really talking about what he's doing. Is he going to throw soon, or like what's the deal with this guy?
So last I saw, he's been just playing catch still. Earlier this week, Arden had what I think was the latest update. He's just playing catch, doesn't have a timeline to throw off a mound. Big picture, this is, I mean, it's not good.
Yeah.
Given what we just outlined with the options that they have and how well Bowden's look, like, not the end. If you ignore, like, let's say Manoah was coming this season, a normal season, a guy needing a little bit of extra time to stretch out in spring, starting with a couple AAA starts, not the end of the world. For me, it's just like, man, we haven't seen Alec Manoah throw capably in so long at this point. And he didn't look good in the one spring start that he made. Obviously, it's his first appearance, so who cares? But like, you'd really hope that there's some sort of, well, the offseason plan he did, the weight that he clearly lost, the work that he put in, you'd like to see some sort of return for that. So I think I'm at a place with Manoah right now where, for different reasons, but by the end of by the 2/3 mark of last year, it was like, okay, I'm not penciling him in. Whatever he gives you is just like bonus at this point. I think that's kind of how you have to approach it until he's back in a game situation. So you have to, I don't think you're looking at Bowden Francis, Mitch White, Wes Parsons, Ricky Tiedemann discussion as who's making 2 starts in April. I think it's who's your number 5 starter. And then if Alec Manoah gets into the mix, late April, early May or something like that, then you adjust on the fly. It doesn't sound like this is imminent at all.
I just want Manoah to be good again. When he is good, it's like, I remember I watched some of his starts from 2022. Like, I'll just watch it when I'm bored, just some highlights. And like, the location of some of his pitches were so good. His breaking stuff was catching hitters off balance. I can't fathom the 2023 Manoah. I really can't believe like that actually happened, because he came into the year opening day starter, and the writing was kind of on the wall. I mean, his spring was not that good. His opening day start against the Cardinals, he walked the house, gave up pretty decent amount of runs. It was just all on the wall there for us, and we I guess refused to see it. But man, that Alec Manoah season last year was really tough to watch, and I hope he bounces back. But this spring, that first start was really bad. Like, he hit everyone.
Yeah, and look, I'm not that worried. He's always hit guys, but yeah, you want to hit guys because you're making them uncomfortable, not because you can't locate, right?
Yeah.
It's 2 different styles of hitting guys. So look, he's 26. There's time for him to figure it out. There were some warning signs even late in 2022. Like, obviously the wild card start did not go particularly well. Some of the underlying metrics were like, hold up, this is maybe more like a 3.5 ERA guy, not a 2.5 ERA guy. There's a lot of time for him to figure it out still. I just think if you're the Blue Jays and you're in like an obvious win now situation, And look, Bowden being as good as he's been and some of the options coming through, it's not as stressful. But look, if you were heading into a season like last year where you don't know who the starting pitching depth is, I would be freaking out. Like if this were last year and Manoah were
Yeah.
repeating this, I would be freaking out. It's only because Francis and some of the other depth options have looked all right that I'm not. I kind of think you just have to approach this as if like whenever Manoah's back, that's bonus, and you figure out the good problem then. But I'm not saying he's not going to contribute in 2024. I just don't think you can rely on getting X from Alec Manoah this year until you see him back on the mound. Which sucks because you're right, man. He was one of the most fun guys to watch, and like really that kind of like gamer mentality of like, I don't have it today and I'm still going to give you 6 innings against the Yankees because I can just pitch through it.
Yeah, this team, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, either this team is going to be dog shit, like 78, 80 wins, or this team is just going to win 90 to 95 games and just be an absolute wagon, and I get to dunk on people. But there's multiple signs that have shown that this offense, or at least some of the players have figured it out. You can't fake it at the plate. You can't, like, you can't fake approach, and the Jays' approaches are way different. Dalton Varsho was stealing 1,000,000 bases this spring, which is absurd. He's every single chance he gets, he's stealing a base, which is a good sign. Bo Bichette stealing bases. I think this offense, man, I know it's still spring training, and I know I'm maybe just having false hope, but seeing some of these swings, Vladdy two-hand finish, by the way, electric. Seeing all this stuff, it's giving me a lot of confidence going into this season. It really is. And I talked about this. I think we talked about this with maybe Mitch or Bassett, but them being the favorites to win the World Series in the AL, or one of the favorites the previous 2 years, and them kind of doing nothing, and then this year them kind of going in as the underdog, I think it benefits them. I really do. I think no expectations by the outside noise is what's going to make this team be good this year. I really do.
I hope so. And look, if you're guys like Bo and Vlad, and to a lesser extent, Manoah, even Kirk, who, I don't think he wears the kind of face of the franchise thing, but a guy they had big hopes for and kind of underwhelmed last year offensively. These are all guys that should be, they should thrive on that kind of thing, right? Like Vlad had the famous, that was the trailer, this is the movie. And it's like, okay, man, you went straight to DVD. Like, what's your next move here? Yeah. That should be motivating for these guys. And Bo probably shouldn't wear it as much because he's been so solid through it all. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you with the optimism. You look at how some of these guys are doing offensively, or what is the upside, right? Because we know that the AL East is going to be tough, and it's not that hard for things to go off the rails for any team. But if you're talking about the upside to win those 90 plus games you're talking about, well, it's Bo has, instead of finishing 2022 really, really hot and starting 2023 really hot, he puts that together for a whole year and is in, the 5 to 10 range in the MVP discussion. Vlad gets back to being like a 35 home run threat. Kirk hits a little better. Justin Turner still has some life. I think you're right that there is some offensive potential here that we didn't get to see last year because of the Vlad stuff, because of the weird runners and scoring position stuff that happened for 4 months. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I would say the offense, I don't know that I think on paper, they're a slightly worse team than they were on paper last year. I didn't love the offseason overall, but I do think that the upside on the offensive side accounts at least for a little bit of one of the biggest worries I have this year is you're not going to get that level of health in the starting rotation again. It's just not going to happen, right? So are you going to have to win more games offensively? Probably. And I'm confident that is there more than they got to show last year. Like, I think they'll be a better offensive team. Maybe they take a slight step back pitching health wise, but maybe you end up in the same spot and you're still in that wild card mix again. I have trouble getting too much more optimistic than the wild card just because of the nature of the AL East.
Juan Soto and Judge on the same team is kind of bullshit. But and just like looking back on that 2023 year, I cannot believe we had to fucking watch that team. Like, that offense, I was talking about it today. That offense last year was putrid. Like some of the worst I've ever seen in my fandom as a Toronto Blue Jay. Because at least when the Jays had those bad years, you knew they were going to be bad. You knew it. Right?
Yeah. It's also, I always think it's, sorry to cut you off. I always think it's worse too. Like, if you know you're going to be bad and your offense is bad, that's fine. No one's mad about that. Like, it's annoying to watch day to day. But last year coming in and everyone's like, yeah, they should be a top 5 offense, and they finished what 14th in runs scored. They're like down there with the Diamondbacks and the Angels for offense. Is like, yeah, like I know their WRC plus or whatever was higher and they underperformed a little bit, but you finished 14th in runs scored. That's not that's not good. Generally, it's especially not good if you were supposed to be a team that wins the division. It was very frustrating.
And we had to live stream. I mean, we get paid for it, but we had to live stream these games. I'm watching it. What am I getting excited? Like, they scored 2 runs last year when they were down 2. That shit was over. That game was done.
Dude, what was the most fun you had last season? Davis Schneider's debut series,
Schneider,
right?
that Schneider week. Yeah. That's it.
I was on the Beers stream that Friday night.
That was the only fun we've ever had.
Yeah, that was it offensively. Like, winning games 3-2 is still cool. Like, I love good pitching, but homers are fun. Big offensive outbursts are fun. We got almost none of that last year.
Not like Vlad, he led the team in homers last year with 26 or 28 or whatever it was. That is just like, that's bad. Like, I am so happy that season is over, and hopefully we can turn a leaf, and opening day we hit 4 bombs or whatever it is. It's like, I can't believe we watched it. And I talked about this today. I went for lunch with Doc, and
nice.
Yeah,
did you go to St. Thomas?
No. I wish. We went to a little Are You Serious in Guelph, but we were talking about this, like, that 2021 team, you don't realize what you have until it's gone. Man, did that team fuck. Like, I'm looking at highlights, their stats. They led in almost every offensive category. I mean, we didn't realize how good we had it that year. We didn't.
They had like 10% more home runs than any other team in the league that year, if I'm remembering right. They had like 260 homers or something like that. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't even just Vlad. Like, Semyon had like 40 or 45.
Yeah.
Teo was on that team. I think that was Bo's best home run season too. Yeah. I would like. They're not going to do that. Like, I don't think, Kiermaier is that guy. Like, I don't know that they have a bunch of 30 and 40 home run hitters, but yeah, give me 25 from Springer and Bo, and give me 40 from Vlad again. And Turner's still got something left. I don't know. Varsho's been so much better in spring being like a more selective guy, but when he gets away from the selective approach, yeah, he had 27 bombs a couple years ago, kind of selling out for that power. So maybe they have a little bit more of that. You mentioned something earlier I wanted your opinion on. You pointed out that Varsho and Bo have been running a lot more in spring. Do you think that's something that's going to carry over the regular season?
I think it has to. I think you kind of have to. Last year, I think the addition of Justin Turner kind of forces that to happen, especially for Bo. Turner is, I don't know what it is. He's kind of turning back. He looks incredible. We haven't really talked about him. He looks great this spring. I think the being more aggressive on the base path thing, all it can really do is kind of help it. And Vladdy, the double play merchant, it takes out of the double play ball out of the question a lot of the time. But I do think that's something that has been talked about, that has been discussed, because Dalton Varsho last year, a guy that should be really fast, wasn't really swiping bags last year. He was using his speed to lay down bunts. I do think Varsho will, like, I'm thinking 20 to 25 stolen bases. That's not a crazy number to ask for. And Bo is doing it as well too. Bo is baseball smart enough where it's like, I trust when he wants to steal a base, when I know he kind of can get a good read off a guy. So I do think that will be happening this year. And those are kind of the only 2 guys that can kind of steal. I don't really think Kiermaier would be that good on the base pass.
Yeah, that's true. Cavan can sneak one. Although obviously he's not a burner, but he could take one here and there. But yeah, I mean, Bo had that season, that 2021 season you're talking about. He was 25 for 26. And then he just like hasn't attempted a lot of steals since then.
I don't know why, because you obviously know this. Keegan predicted Bo would have 25-25, I think, last year, or whatever, 30-30. And he just kind of stopped running. I don't know if that was, maybe there was lingering injuries, but I love the lingering injuries excuse for everything. Like, I just say that, like, in my mind this offseason multiple times, and maybe Vlad was injured last year.
Yeah, I mean, he had the like knee and wrist stuff that we knew about a little bit, but I'm not enough of a, if anyone saw my swing, they would be like, okay, stop analyzing Vlad's swing. So I can't pinpoint that, like, hey, is that a wrist thing? Is that a knee thing? Leave that to you and Joe Siddle and those guys. But yeah, I mean, at times he looked very, very uncomfortable. So I'd buy that at least a little bit.
I do think I understanding now with the offensive coordinator role maybe helps this team. I know a lot of the times we heard it, like, you had Guillermo, you had Matt Hudgy Bear, who has me blocked on Twitter. You had like 2 ears, like 2 voices in one ear. Like, you had 2 guys like I think everything funneling through Don Mattingly, which is what Keegan said is essentially happening, only benefits this team. And now you got other hitting coaches here now with Votto, who has done it forever, who's been a great hitter forever. Turner, who's been a great hitter forever. I think I think this offense this year is gonna be better. I keep telling myself it, but I truly do. And I love Matt Hag. You've talked to him as well.
Yeah.
You know how like he's a he's a player coach. So he will help out players. And that's what Ernie has said. So I'm really looking. I didn't understand the offensive coordinator role, but now I kind of get it, and it makes sense. The funneling system all through Don Mattingly.
Yeah, I mean, make the communication consistent and know who, hey, who's this message supposed to come from? Who's talking to who about what? Like, you run into this on the basketball side too sometimes where, it's not as structured of like who's the offensive coach versus the defensive coach or hitting versus fielding versus pitching. But there are a lot of voices in a room over the course of the year, and you got to make sure that that's consistent. And I thought, this isn't related to the hitter game plan or anything. But one of the things I was most frustrated about at the end of the year when things ended with the Jose Barrios early hook and John Schneider does his presser after, and then Atkins and then Shapiro, there was no consistency in terms of like, who makes this decision? How does that information flow? And how do we sit down and make that decision? And I think that was a bad sign about, like obviously you can have as much interest in the analytics as you want. The teams are going to use them because you fall behind without it. But it's not really about the quality of the information. It's about how you communicate it and implement it where you get the advantage, right? Like all 30 teams have their own version of 29. The Rockies don't have an analytics department.
No.
Everyone else like has numbers and like is trying to apply the same kind of concepts and stuff. So it's like, how do you communicate that? How do you get buy-in? How do you make sure that everyone's on the same page and saying the same things? And that's why I like the Matt Hag edition, because all those AAA guys that had career years last year, every time I talk to one of them is the first name out of their mouth. It's like, yeah, the swing decision stuff and the bat plane stuff and what can I do with what kind of pitch. A lot of that flowed through Matt Hag. Obviously, the players get credit too, but I think it can only help to have that a little more streamlined and a little more clear. I mean, without me being down at spring to talk to people about how this is all implemented, I'm going off of what Keegan's telling you guys, what Keegan's telling me, talking to BNS and stuff like that. But it sounds like there's going to be a little bit more of a little more coordination to the approach.
Yeah, which is something that his team needed going into last year. But what is like going into this year? What is your kind of expectations for this team? Everyone's older. Vladdy's older. We saw that video that still blows my mind. It still aggravates me, to be honest with you. Is they're having an infield meeting in the wild card game, and Vladdy's just at first base talking to someone and just shooting the shit with someone at first base in a playoff game. What is your kind of expectations for this team this year?
Yeah, I'm not as worried about that kind of like obviously that's an annoying thing to happen. And we'll see. There will be people who will be like, oh, the home run jacket or whatever they decide is back. That's a distraction, etc. I don't know. Long season, you gotta have fun, but you also got to be dialed in. I thought last year maybe this time of year, all we were hearing about was like the little things, the errors, the defensive miscues, the base running miscues, and then they were all like super tight to start the year, and they made 100 of those mistakes.
Yeah.
I think they probably have to do as much as they can to kind of fresh start that side of things heading into the year. But I really do think there needs to be a sense of urgency this year, right? Like obviously it's a long season and hitters are going to have hot and cold streaks, but you need a couple of these guys to start the season hot and get you in a good place mentally and momentum wise, because there are like everyone in that room and especially in that front office knows that the Vlad and Bo core has 2 years before free agency with these huge decisions to make. All of the core that they've supplemented them with, even though they've hit on a lot of these contracts, like these guys are getting older. Like Gosman and Bassett aren't going to be here 5 years down the line, and Springer's not going to be here 5 years down the line. There should be a real urgency that this is kind of the year, and I expect that urgency from the front office as well. Like every time I'm trying to make heads or tails of what I thought was an underwhelming offseason, the one thing I come back to, and I'm not like giving them credit for this before it happens, I'm just trying to think through it. There are going to be some broke boy teams this year who, like, because of the regional sports network deals and stuff like that, if they're not competitive, are going to be selling maybe earlier or more aggressively than we're used to. Like the Jays should be in on that. They should be aggressive. There is a very shrinking window here, and I think player, coach, and front office all need that level of urgency. So I want to see a good start. I want to see aggression throughout the year. Projection wise, it's hard for me to pick them to do better than the wild card. But I think if you can like they were out of the division mix immediately last year. Like you don't want that to happen this year. You want to be playing meaningful baseball the whole season and have that be a target that you can strive for down the stretch. Um, I don't know, man. It's like kind of cliche to say, but like it has to happen this year. Like, what's the excitement level going to be in 2025 if everyone's a year older and your two main guys are headed to free agency
Oh God.
because you're coming off of another disappointing year and you don't want to pay them 300 million? Like, this is, it's not the end of the window, but like, get your fingers out of there at the end of this season. Like, it's there needs to be a real urgency up and down the org this year.
I'm not looking forward to next offseason. I'm not, because the talks, oh man, the fans, or some of my mentions are going to be insufferable. But like,
buddy, your mentions will be insufferable even if they make the World Series and lose in
that's
7. Like,
that's a good point. That's a good point. But I will say, I just want a fucking playoff win. The
Yeah.
Toronto Blue Jays have never won a playoff game in the history of Gate 14. 0-4, 8-1 lead blown. Didn't score more than 2 runs last 2023 in the entire playoffs. Chris Bass didn't even get to pitch. I just want one. That's all I'm asking. Let's get better than the year before. Just win one fucking playoff game.
I'm asking for more than that, man. I wanna run. And look, you know that I juggle the two roles and I go back and forth between the Raptors and the Blue Jays. The Raptors are like firmly rebuilding right now. I don't want to go back to the Raptors until, you know, the end of the baseball season, not the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
I want to be kicking around. Like, I'll rejoin the Raptors coverage in November. That's cool. That's give me a playoff run. And that's like I'm framing this selfishly, but like it's been a lot. It's been, if you count 2020, you know, it's been 4 years and now where they either made the playoffs or came up a game short and were playing playoff like games down the stretch, and they haven't won at all. Like it's got to be tough for the team, but it's like really tough for the fan base at this point. Like, no wonder your mentions suck. Everyone's crazy from getting swept in the playoffs.
I was talking about this with Doc. Like, what do you think is harder? Covering a team, and I was on the opposite side of him. Covering a team that's really, really good, like that should be really, really good, or covering a bad team like the Rockies. I said I'd rather cover a really good team, but Doc said at least if you're covering a bad team, you could kind of have fun with it. Like there's no expectations. It's like you can kind of make just jokes about stuff and kind of, but I'm like, fuck that. I want to cover a good baseball team.
No, I'll take a good team. Like the kind of things you're writing about or talking about actually matter if it's a good team.
Yeah.
Like, do you really, like, I get it. Every team in baseball has some cool players, but how many times can you talk about like how good their outfielders' arms are? It's like, okay, that led to 0 wins this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could have some, like, maybe it would be cool for like a year if you were like, and baseball's not the right sport for it, right? Like basketball, you have the draft, and like the draft is such a big thing in the NBA, and you immediately get the player on your roster. Like, I could get there more in the NBA if it was like a 1-year teardown kind of thing, and you got Wemby at the end, or you got Cooper Flag next year or something like that. In baseball, like, your reward for that is like 5 years from now, there's a guy who's like maybe your 12th best player if things break right. No, give me the good team that's frustrating over the bad team that has no chance.
I know right now that last year, this team really blew balls dust, because after May, I think, or halfway through May, I literally said like this was the best team of my lifetime. I thought this was going to be a wagon. They swept the Braves. Remember, they beat the Rays. The first ever Rays loss was against the Jays, and the Jays almost swept them, took 2 or 3 from them after that Kikuchi masterclass on the Saturday. It's like, last year was so weird because they were so good at the start. Like at the start, it was like, this team is a wagon. I just want a consistently good team this year. Is that too crazy to ask for? Let's just be good and go on little hot streaks. But when we have a cold streak, it's like a 2 or 3 game cold streak, and then we just rattle off some wins again. I just want to root for a team. Imagine rooting for a team like the fucking Braves last year. It would rock. You just dog walk everyone.
This is the thing, is like, you mentioned consistency there, and like, yeah, consistency is nice. Like Arden and I joked about this last year, where if you went 4-3 every single week, you would win, I think, 91 games for the season. You'd make the playoffs, and everyone would hate you constantly because you went 4-3 every week. You lost 3 times every week. Like, this part of the where I got nervous about the Jays in like maybe August of last year was like you look around the league and like the Braves had a stretch, the Rays had a stretch, the Orioles had a stretch, the Rangers had a stretch. Like all those teams had a 2 week stretch where they look like the best team in baseball, and
Yes.
the Jays never had that.
Yeah.
I need like consistency is great, but I need like a 2 or 3 week stretch where you look unbeatable because I need to know that upside's there because that's what you're gonna have to tap into in the playoffs, right? Like that's what the Rangers and Phillies were kind of able to do. And like, yeah, I know the Braves and the Rays didn't end up doing anything in the playoffs, but if I'm gonna buy you as a playoff team, I need to see you be the best team in baseball for like at least 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I need too. I'm looking forward to it, man. This season is the first season where I kind of really just don't know. Like last year, the writing was kind of on the wall. You knew the pitching was going to be good last year. That was clear. I mean, the addition of Bassett, who has been a perennial three, like really, really, really good three starter, Gossman coming back, Barrios potential bounce back. You knew this team was going to be good, like pitching wise last year. This year, I just have no fucking clue. I don't know. Pitching guaranteed, I guess, is going to be pretty good, but like I don't know what this offense. I have no idea. I have no idea.
No, I think the offense will be better. And like I said earlier, like the pitching individually, I think those top four guys are good. Like I don't think there's much question, but like already we're looking at, okay, well, Gosman's not not starting as 100% as you'd like. Manoah is going to start the year on the IL. What does the fifth starter spot look like? Pitching unravels quickly. So I believe in each of the guys individually. I do not believe in the collective health repeating. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think the offense has to be better, even if like on paper they're not a better team. Like I can't look at a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and think that he doesn't have a season in him that is significantly better than what did he OPS on like sub 800 last year?
He had
like
a 1-1 WAR, I think, a 1
that
WAR.
that can't be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I know that we just saw a whole season of it and it's been a long time since he was that, MVP candidate level hitter, but like I have to believe there's more in there. I have to
Yeah.
believe George Springer has a little bit more left in the tank than he showed last year.
Yeah.
I mean, we all love Bo and think he's like Varsh will be better. It's hard not to believe in the offense being a little bit better, even if everyone's a year older and you lose matchup.
Do you think Jose Barrios starts opening day?
Yeah, I think that's the way it looks right now, right?
Well, Taj Bradley's like a corpse now. I don't know what the hell happened to him. He's not pitching, and Shane McClanahan's out. Yeah, I think Jose Barrios. And if I would have said that 2 years ago, I would have called it. Jose Barrios is an opening day starter potentially for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I couldn't be more confident in a human being starting opening day for our team. I really couldn't.
He'll probably go up against Zach Eflin then, I guess.
Yeah, I think it'll be Zach Eflin. What a dog shit! Zach Eflin is the opening day starter for the Rays. That just it doesn't make sense how that.
I'm honestly just surprised they're not using an opener to start opening day.
Just an opener like a bullpen day.
Yeah,
the open fucking that would make me sick. But man, this is fun. This season is going to be. I think, man. I don't know. Maybe just the Gate 14 growth, which has me excited for this season, or I don't know what it is, but. Maybe
you got some events planned for this year. I don't want to make you announce stuff that's not announced.
Yeah, no, we have the St. Louis Bar and Grill thing, which is like that watch party on opening day.
Nice.
In Toronto, which is at 3:30, which sucks. I don't know why that is, but we have some stuff planned out. I mean, Swanee and like we've talked with Swanee about potentially getting some giveaways with Swanee and then Bassett and stuff. So yeah, we got a ton of stuff planned out for the boys here. I'm excited for it. We kind of just play it by ear. We're gonna be probably doing a full uniform game again this year. I've talked about it with Avery. He's not really into it as much as because I was the guinea pig the first year, and Avery was just walking around with the camera when I was looking dumb as shit in a full uniform strolling around the Rogers Center. Now we need the roles to be reversed. We need me and Avery doing it again like we did last year.
Yeah.
Maybe do Yankee Stadium, full uniform game. That would be fucked. I think we'd probably get killed if we did that. But
have you done Yankee Stadium before?
I went to the old Yankee Stadium when I was a kid. I went to Yankees Red Sox. Ching-Ming Wong versus fuck, I don't remember who was pitching for the Dice K. It was sick. Wow. Yeah, that was a matchup there. But
yeah, so that was like a 7-hour game.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't remember much. I just remember like they wouldn't let Red Sox fans take pisses. And I wish our fans were like that, man. I really do. I hate to say it, like it sounds like I'm a piece of shit, but I wish Jays fans were not assholes, but like more had like pride with who they rooted for when
I
other fans were at games. That's all.
think we got conditioned to it in those lean years in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where like the only time the Jays ever did big crowds was if the Red Sox or Yankees were here, right?
Yeah.
It's like, am I going to go to war with Josh Towers on the mound? Probably
Yeah.
not. I'll just let them have it.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd be down for a little bit more of that. I don't want people to like
Start fight. No, I just
yeah,
like friendly chirps. Like Yankee
yeah,
fans and Red
friendly,
Sox
yeah,
fans, it's like a friendly thing. So most of the time, it's not unless
yeah.
they're crazy people, right?
And
But yeah.
I'll say this too. This happened once this year when I went to a game as a fan, not as media, and I didn't say anything, but I should have. If you go to a Jays Yankees game in a Red Sox shirt, you should be chirped worse than the Yankees
Oh,
fans.
for
Worse than
sure.
yeah.
For sure. I last year was some of the stuff the Jays fans did, man. It's like I caught a lot of heat for this on social media, but when Teo hit that home run against the Jays to propel a comeback, the fans gave him a standing O. It's like he's not on our fucking team. Why are we cheering for a guy that just hit a home run on the other team? It's
Yeah.
like it's crazy.
First plate appearance for a returning guy.
For sure.
Cool. But don't celebrate the home run. It's like
That's
I'm
like
not
Kawhi
gonna...
hitting a game-winning shot, and then the Raptors fan just like, "Yep, that's what the fuck I'm talking about." It's crazy.
Yeah, can't do the celebrate as they dunk on you. I mean, I guess like maybe if you were an awful team, but
yeah,
no, have some pride.
Yeah. It's just like Bassett was pitching. I was like, whatever. But yeah, that really pissed me off. But I did want to talk about last thing is the new Rogers Center. I mean, they pretty much like there's just going to be a rich section and a poor section, right? I'm looking at some of these seats. They have made it a point of emphasis to isolate the rich people in the bottom. They have like the concrete there where they can kind of run through their own entrance, like kind of like at Scotiabank, I guess. But it looks sick. I will say that stadium looks sick.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't been in to tour the new stuff yet. So I'm just going off the 3D models and stuff like that. I think my favorite thing is just like how much more in the action you are if you sit down those foul line seats. So that tends to be where I sit most often, like down the baseline, just past the dugout. We get our little Rogers discount in that section, but we don't get it behind the plate. So I tend to sit down there a lot. And the fact that those seats are now like oriented more toward the play and you're a little closer on top of it with less foul ground, I think that'll be a lot of fun.
And I didn't even realize this. Maybe I'm just like the Rogers shill that my mentions say that I am, but I didn't even realize that the seats weren't facing home plate. Like that's something that I didn't realize, and now apparently like they're all facing home plate, which is going to be a crazy adjustment, I guess, for me. But
yeah, if you look at the side by side, like prior, you were kind of like if you were just past the dugout, you're kind of looking at the second baseman. And now you'll be looking a little bit more like in at, if you're on the third base side, you're looking a little bit more in at the third base angle instead of kind of looking out into center field. It'll never be as bad as you've done Fenway. Yeah.
Yes. No. So, I haven't done Fenway.
Oh, okay. So I've done Fenway a couple times, but the first time I went, I sat in that like weird pre-renovation triangle in center field where like you're looking into the right field bleachers when you're sitting in center. It's just like, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like you were not facing the action at all. They've like reoriented it and stuff since. This was like in the Jonathan Papelbon era. My first time going to Fenway, Papelbon up 3 comes in for the save, walks the bases loaded, and then strikes out the side. It was as someone who wanted the Red Sox to lose, but was on that trip with a friend who's a Red Sox fan. Big emotional swings.
That's a Romano. That's a Romano 2023-esque kind of appearance there. But anyways, Blake, I mean, so let the people know, like, when's Blue Jays Talk Plus going to be back? Like, what time are they expected? Because obviously you're covering the Raptors now, but not really much to cover with that ball club. So.
Yeah, so officially, Jays Talk Plus is back April 17th, which is the Raptors are done on the 15th. We'll do one last Goodbye Raptor show on the Monday, and then Jays Talk Plus is back on the Tuesday. Will be, I think, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. to start. And then once the Leafs are done, it'll go back to 2 hours like it was last year, 10 to 12. There'll also be a couple random episodes here and there where, like, if the Jays have an afternoon game, I'll do a Jays Talk Plus instead of the Raptor show, or both with the Raptor show or whatever. Maybe a couple podcast only episodes. So, but yeah, April 17th is the official we're back every day.
Ball's back, man. Baseball is back.
Yeah.
It's such a long season, but the off season feels so much longer. I don't know why. Maybe because we're so used to watching ball every day. I don't know. That might be it. But I'm so excited, man, just to have baseball back. I really am. And see this team. I don't know. I'm juiced, man. Just to go to the Rogers Center on a Saturday, 3 o'clock, get after it.
I have two screens up with the two different Blue Jays spring training games today, and I'm psyched that Eric Pardinho, the ghost of Eric Pardinho, he's still around. He's throwing like 96, 97.
Yeah, you're just
Like,
you're,
yeah,
you're
I need
locked in.
real baseball because focusing on this stuff is making me an insane person.
I'm so pumped just to be able to, like, all right, you want to go to the Jays game Saturday? We'll go Saturday. Treat it as kind of just a pre, and then just go to I think, yeah, treat it as a pre, and then just go out the night of on Saturday. It's nothing better than it. And the bars that they added there, I like this stadium so much more than I used to, because I used to think it was one of the worst stadiums in baseball. I really did.
I agree with you. I've been to, I think, 23 or 24.
Yeah.
And the only two that were worse prior to the renovations were Tropicana, and the old Minnesota Metrodome before they moved to Target Field.
Yeah.
And like that's it. But the upgrades have been huge. Even something like I like to take my mom and my stepdad to a game or two a year. They'll drive in from out of town for it, and like they enjoy it so much more, just being able to like walk around and like stand up for an inning, having a hot dog and a beer, rather than being in your seat the whole time. Just like for a more casual fan, obviously for hardcore fans who are there all the time, being able to mix it up is great too. But for the more casual fans, for the my moms of the world, it's a huge upgrade.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, anyways, Blake, I appreciate you filling in here for Avery. Obviously, you know, Gate 14 Nation has a special place in their heart for you. So I appreciate you doing this, man. Enjoy the rest of that Raptors season. I know we talk about covering a bad team, that must not be that great, but the Jays are going to be at the end of the tunnel there. You got that light at the end of the tunnel there for you. So I appreciate you doing this, Blake.
Yeah, anytime, buddy. Keep up the great work. Love the Mitch White interview. Love the Keegan interview. Love what you guys are doing, man.